So today we're going to have a look at the goddess Hecate, or Hecate as some people call her. Now this will be the first in the Gods and Goddesses introduction series. So today we're going to have a look at this very interesting and very important goddess for people involved in witchcraft. Now Hecate, she is the goddess of Greek mythology. If everybody is well versed in Greek mythology, then she'll need no introduction. Now, she was capable of both good and evil. She was especially associated, as I mentioned, with witchcraft, sorcery, magic, and particularly with the moon. Also doorways and creatures of the night, such as hellhounds and ghosts. So you'll often see her in the form of, actually she's got 3 heads. See the female head, the serpent, and also the hellhound. And by her side also, you can also see next to her in a lot of imagery, hellhounds or some type of dog. Now she is often depicted carrying a torch or 2 torches to remind of her connection with the night, and in sculpture with the 3 faces, like I mentioned, representing her role as the guardian of crossroads. So that is a key as well, the crossroads, the moon, the 3 faces, the hellhounds. These are all key symbologies that you have to keep in mind. Now if we look at the genealogy, according to Hesiod in his Theogony, Hecate is the daughter of Perses and Asteria, but there are many stories, many variations. So if this is the case, it would make her the granddaughter of the Titans Phoebe and Coeus. Now you're going to have to look up about the mythology, about the Titans, etc. I won't go into that right now because it's a big sidetrack. Now the other writer, Euripides, on the other hand, mentions her as being the daughter of Leto. So Leto is actually her mother. Now other writers claim Hecate as being the daughter of Zeus and Demeter, Aristeon, or night, you could say. So there are many versions as to her genealogy. Now this goddess was frequently associated with Demeter and even assimilated to her in various cults. So there's quite a lot of intermingling and mixing of the boundaries there as to which mythological lineage and genealogy she actually comes from. So if we have a look now, from the 5th century BCE, the goddess is associated with the darker side of the human experience. So we're talking about death and witchcraft, magic, sorcery, that kind of thing. And she often appears in the full moon or the new moon, dreams, and also creatures like fierce hounds and creatures of the night that roam in the darkness. Okay, so if we look at the Oxford Dictionary, they would phrase it like outlandish in her infernal aspects. She is more at home on the fringes than in the center of Greek polytheism. Intrinsically ambivalent and polymorphous, she straddles conventional boundaries and eludes definition. I'm just reading there the Oxford Classical Dictionary. Now, Hesiod describes the goddess in the following glowing terms. So in a very positive light, he states, Zeus, Cronus' son, honored Hecate above all others. He gave her splendid gifts to have a share of the earth and of the barren sea, and from the starry sky as well. She has a share in honor, and is honored most of all by the immortal gods. For even now, whenever any human on the earth seeks propitiation, or I mispronounce that. Sometimes I get tongue-tied. That's what happens when you try to speed up your speech. Propitiation, I think, is the correct pronunciation. By performing fine sacrifices according to custom, he invokes Hecate, and much honor very easily stays with that man whose prayers the goddess accepts with gladness, and she bestows happiness upon him. Okay, and this is in his work titled Theogony, pages 411 to 420. You'll find this verse if you actually want to read that tome. Now, Hesiod goes on to say that the goddess supports warriors, athletes, hunters, horsemen, herdsmen, shepherds, fishermen, and children. Her companions are the Furies, or the Erinyes. These are winged creatures who punish wrongdoing. So, once again, you're going to have to look up all these things, okay? I won't go into details here because I don't want to go too long into a sidetrack. Her children are supposedly Empusae, the female demons, partial to seducing travelers. Okay, now if you go to a place called Lagina in Caria, you'll see a temple which is completely in ruins. It's called the Temple of Hecate. It's still there. Now, the goddess had unusual rituals performed in her honor, which include the offerings of food given at the crossroads, like we mentioned before, very important, or the road junctions, and any other sort of boundary or threshold. Okay, so these offerings were known as the Supper of Hecate. These took the form of, for example, small cakes of eggs, cheese, bread, and the unusual offering of dog meat, okay, which were lit with miniature torches, or alternatively a dish of red mullet, which was usually prohibited from offerings to the other gods. It was reserved specifically for Hecate. Now, Hecate was also offered the sacrifice of dogs, especially puppies, oddly enough. I don't know if many of you know that. Now, the dog connection may be the fact that dogs are known to eat the dead if left unburied at the time. They also howl at the moon, of course. A lot of the dogs they had in Greece and in Europe that time were the hounds, or the Molossus type dogs, which were the ancestors of the Neapolitan Mastiffs, which were the ancestors of all other types of Mastiff dogs. Now, a further Canaan connection may be with the Egyptian god Anubis, who guided souls to the underworld. So that could be where this connection came from as well. And the Greek three-headed hound of Hades. Now, there is another god or goddess, Cerberus, I think it's pronounced. Now, Cerberus may be an earlier form of Hecate. I'm not too sure about that. I'm going to have to look into it. Now, the offerings to the goddess were made each month during the night of a new moon. Okay, the goddess was especially appealed to by sorceresses for aid in their magic and spells, and appears on surviving examples of curse tablets to this day. The Greek and also Roman curse tablets. She features prominently on them. Okay, so anyway, she's an extremely important goddess for anyone involved in magic. Now, Hecate goes back to Greek and Roman times, and the Romans really promoted this goddess as a goddess of great importance in Roman times, and that's why the spelling is more accurately spelt as Hecate, although the anglicized version can have a K instead of a C, but not a CK combination. Now, before she was a Roman goddess, she was a Greek goddess of the three paths. She was a guardian of the household and protector of anything newly born. She was also the goddess of sorcery and magic, and later became the goddess of witchcraft. Now, what happened is that over the years, she went from becoming widely revered and an influential goddess to gaining a slightly tarnished reputation over the centuries. And in more modern times, she was usually depicted as a crone or hag, an old witch stirring the cauldron, or an old witch bent over with hounds. But nothing could actually be further from the truth. The original image of Hecate is quite a youthful one. She is actually a very beautiful and powerful goddess in her own right. The Greek and Roman goddess Hecate was the only one of the ancient titans, if we follow this mythology, who Zeus allowed to retain their authority once the Olympians seized control. So Zeus shared with Hecate, and only her, the awesome power of giving humanity anything she wished, or withholding it if she pleased. Now, she's usually classified as a moon goddess. Her kingdoms were actually threefold: the earth, the sea, and the sky. And her form takes the imagery of the head of a dog, the head of a horse, the head of a snake as well, to symbolize this. Having the power to create or withhold storms undoubtedly played a role in making her the goddess who was the protector of shepherds and sailors at the time as well. Okay, so that is all for the goddess Hecate this time around. Join me next week for the next god or goddess in the series, and I'll also be producing other videos between the week, during the days of the week, should I say. Alright, so if you enjoyed this clip, then please click the like, and once again I should actually mention, click on the bell near subscribe, so you will get to see all the updates and the videos that are uploaded, because that's the system now on YouTube. If you don't click the bell, you won't get to see what's uploaded. Only a select few, and that'll be up to YouTube's whim. So please click the bell. If you haven't subscribed, of course, subscribe and click the bell. And I look forward to seeing you here next week or sooner. Okay? Enjoy the week. Thanks.